Michael Turner lived in Portland, Oregon, a peaceful city of trees, bicycles, and rainy mornings. He was 52 years old, a high school history teacher, and the kind of man who drank the same brand of coffee every day and walked the same path to school for almost 20 years. His life was simple, until the day everything changed. It happened on a Thursday morning. Michael stood in front of his class, explaining an event he had taught hundreds of times, the Boston Tea Party. His voice was calm and steady as he wrote on the board. But suddenly, mid-sentence, he stopped. A word disappeared from his mind. A small, ordinary, everyday word. He opened his mouth to continue speaking, but nothing came out. 25 students stared at him. The room became completely silent, only the sound of rain tapping the window. Michael felt his face grow warm. He forced a small smile and said, give me a second. I lost the word. The class laughed softly, thinking it was a joke, but Michael wasn't laughing. After school, he stayed alone in his classroom. The desks were empty, the hallways quiet. The smell of chalk and old textbooks filled the air. Michael sat at his desk, tapping his fingers nervously. Why did that happen? Why can't I remember simple words anymore? Is my brain getting older faster than I thought? That evening, he walked to a small clinic near his neighborhood. The doctor, a friendly woman named Dr. Hayes, listened carefully as he explained what happened. After checking him, she smiled gently. Michael, you're fine, she said. But your brain needs exercise just like your body. Exercise, he repeated. Yes, she continued. If you want to keep your brain young, you must challenge it, feed it well, and keep it active. On the walk home, Michael felt a strange mix of relief and curiosity. The streetlights glowed softly along the quiet Portland sidewalk. Cars passed slowly in the drizzle. Something inside him shifted that night. Sitting at his kitchen table with a cup of warm tea, Michael made a promise: I will keep my brain strong. I will keep my brain young. He didn't know that this simple decision would lead him into a life-changing adventure filled with new habits, unexpected discoveries, and moments that would transform the way he saw his own mind. The next morning, Portland was covered in soft gray clouds, and the air smelled like fresh rain. Michael woke up earlier than usual. He sat on the edge of his bed, remembering the doctor's words, your brain needs exercise. But what did that really mean? How do you exercise a brain? He opened his laptop and searched how to keep your brain young. The screen filled with articles, videos, and scientific studies. Michael clicked on one titled Neuroplasticity After 50. A new word appeared on the screen, neuroplasticity. He whispered it slowly, as if tasting it. The article explained that the brain could grow new connections, learn new skills, and stay sharp, no matter your age. You just needed to use it in the right ways. For the first time in days, Michael felt hope. A new plan. He grabbed a notebook, wrote the date at the top, and made 3 goals. Do something new every day. Challenge my mind with small, daily tasks. Take better care of my body, because it helps my brain too. They looked simple, but something inside him whispered that these steps might change everything. A surprising call that afternoon at school. While he was preparing lesson plans, his phone buzzed. It was his sister, Emily, calling from Seattle. Mike, haven't talked to you in a while. Everything okay? She asked. He hesitated. Yeah, mostly. Just had a strange moment yesterday. Forgot a word right in front of my class. Emily laughed gently. That happens to everyone. Not like this, he replied. It felt different. She became quiet for a moment. Mike, you work too much, she finally said. Maybe you need something new in your life. A hobby. A challenge. Something to wake up your brain. Her words echoed what he had read that morning. A hobby, he repeated. Well, you used to love learning languages, she reminded him. Why not try again? Remember when you tried to learn Spanish in college? Michael smiled. He had liked Spanish, even though he didn't learn much. Maybe I will, he said softly. The walk that changed everything. When school ended, Michael didn't go home right away. He walked instead. He walked past old bookstores, coffee shops, and the sound of rushing buses on wet streets. His mind felt clearer than usual. As he passed a small community center, he noticed a poster on the doors, beginner Spanish class, starting Monday. He stopped. He looked at the poster again, then again. Something inside him lit up, like a small spark. Michael took a deep breath and stepped inside the building. At the front desk, a young woman smiled at him. Can I help you? Yes, he said. I'd like to sign up for the Spanish class. It felt strange. It felt exciting. It felt new. That night, while writing in his notebook, Michael realized something important. Keeping the brain young didn't start with big changes. It started with small, brave steps. He fell asleep feeling proud, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Monday evening arrived faster than Michael expected. The rain had stopped, and Portland streets glowed under orange streetlights. People hurried home, bicycles passed by quietly, and the air smelled like wet pavement. Michael stood in front of the community center with a mix of excitement and nervousness. What am I doing here? He wondered, can I really learn a new language at my age? But then he remembered his promise, I will keep my brain young. He opened the door, the first class inside. The room was bright and warm. A circle of chairs stood in the middle. A poster on the wall read, Bienvenidos. Welcome to Spanish for Beginners. Slowly, other adults entered the room, people of different ages, jobs, and backgrounds. There was Sarah, a 28-year-old nurse who wanted to talk to her Spanish-speaking patients, Tom, a retired bus driver who loved traveling, Linda, a grandmother who wanted to communicate with her daughter-in-law's family, and David, a quiet college student who needed the class for credit. Michael took a seat and waited. A few minutes later, the teacher walked in, a cheerful woman with curly brown hair and bright eyes. Hola, everyone, she said with energy. My name is Maria. And don't worry, we're all starting at the beginning. Michael felt a wave of relief the moment everything shifted. The class began with simple greetings. Repeat after me, Maria said. Hola. The group repeated, Hola. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Mi llamo mi llamo. Michael was surprised. The words felt strange and beautiful, like music. His brain felt awake. When it was his turn to introduce himself, he hesitated. The whole class looked at him, waiting. He took a breath and said slowly, Mi llamo Michael. The class applauded softly. Maria smiled. Perfecto. Something warm spread through Michael's chest. He hadn't felt proud of himself like this in years. A small success. After class, most students left quickly, but Maria stopped Michael as he was packing his notebook. You did well today, she said. Michael laughed nervously. I was shaking. That's normal, she replied. The first step is always the hardest. But you showed up, and that's what matters for the brain. New challenges keep it young. He nodded, remembering the doctor's words. As he walked home, he practiced the new words softly to himself. Hola, buenos dias, mi llamo Michael. The words danced on his tongue. A quiet realization back home. He wrote in his notebook, today, something changed. I felt alive. My brain felt alive. He sat back and thought about his life. For years, his days had been the same. Teaching, grading, cooking, sleeping. Safe, predictable, quiet. But now, something new was growing inside him. A spark. A curiosity. A feeling he hadn't felt since he was young. That night, as he fell asleep, Michael whispered the last thought in his mind, maybe I'm not getting old, maybe I'm just waking up again. The next few weeks moved quickly, and Michael found himself changing in ways he had never expected. Every Monday and Wednesday evening, he walked through the quiet Portland neighborhood to the community center for Spanish class. At first, the walk felt long, but soon he began to enjoy it. The cool air, the smell of trees, the soft city lights. His mind felt clearer, his steps felt lighter, and something inside him felt younger. A new morning routine. One Saturday morning, Michael woke up unusually early. Instead of reaching for his phone, he sat at his kitchen table with a notebook and wrote, what can I do today that is new? He looked around the room. Coffee maker. Plants on the windowsill. Quiet kitchen. Then he remembered an article he had read online. Walking for 20 minutes improves memory and brain function. So he put on his shoes and stepped outside. The morning was cold and fresh. Fog curled between the trees. Birds hopped across lawns, searching for food. Michael began walking slowly, then faster. He felt his heart waking up. He walked past a bakery, a library, and a small market. He smelled warm bread, heard soft chatter, and felt the energy of the city around him. For the first time in a long time, his mind wasn't worrying. It was exploring. A change noticed at school. Back at work, Michael's students noticed something different. Mr. Turner, you look happier, one of them said. Yeah, you're smiling more, another added. Michael laughed. Is that so strange? A student joked, a little. He couldn't blame them. For years, he had been tired, stressed, and stuck in routine. But now he felt more awake in class, more patient, more curious, more present. He started adding small brain challenges to his lessons and memory games, quick puzzles, short debates. The students loved it and Michael loved watching them think. A hard moment, but not everything was easy. One evening, during Spanish class, Maria asked everyone to form pairs and have a small conversation using the new vocabulary. When it was Michael's turn, he froze. His partner, Sarah the nurse, smiled kindly. Ready? I think so, he said. They started speaking, but Michael forgot a word. Then another. His face turned red, his hands shook a little. I'm sorry, he whispered. My brain just stopped. Sarah touched his shoulder gently. It's okay. Everyone messes up. That's how we learn. But Michael felt embarrassed. A familiar old fear returned. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm too old. After class, he stayed behind. Maria approached him. Rough day? He nodded. I feel like a slow student. Maria smiled kindly. Do you know what makes the brain older faster than anything else? What? Self-doubt. Stress. Thinking you can't learn. Michael looked down. You're not failing, she added softly. You're building new connections. That feels messy at first. Don't quit now. He breathed deeply, letting her words sink in. A spark returns on the walk home. The night was quiet. The moon hung low above the city. Michael looked up at it and felt a strange comfort. Learning was hard, but he wasn't alone. He had classmates. He had his sister. He had his doctor's advice, and he had a new sense of purpose. At home, he wrote in his notebook, today was difficult, but difficult is good for the brain. I won't stop. He closed the notebook with a small smile. Somewhere deep inside, the spark of youth glowed stronger than before. 2 weeks later, the Spanish class felt different. Everyone was more confident, laughing more, participating more actively. Everyone except Michael. He was improving, yes, but slowly. Some days he felt smart and alive, other days he felt like his brain was a heavy box he had to push uphill. Still, he didn't quit. A big announcement one evening. Maria clapped her hands as the class settled into their seats. All right, everyone. Next week we will have our first conversation test. A small one. Not scary. You will talk for 2 minutes in Spanish. Everyone groaned. Michael felt his heart drop. 2 minutes, in Spanish, without notes. His palms grew sweatier. Maria continued, this is not about perfection. It's about using your brain. A challenge creates growth. Michael repeated that sentence in his head like a prayer. A visit from Emily that weekend. Michael's sister, Emily, drove down from Seattle to visit him. She knew something was wrong the moment she stepped into his house. Mike, you look nervous, she said, putting her bag down at Michael's side. I have a Spanish test next week. Emily burst out laughing. A Spanish test? That's it. It's not funny, he said softly. I'm struggling. Everyone is learning faster than me. Emily sat beside him on the couch. Mike, you're comparing yourself to people who didn't spend 25 years in the same routine. Your brain is waking up. It takes time. She held his hand gently, the way she used to when they were kids. You're doing something brave, she said. You're rebuilding yourself. Michael felt a knot in his chest loosen. Practice makes progress. The next few days, he practiced everywhere, while cooking dinner. Yo preparo la cena, yo corto las verduras, on his morning walk. Hace frio, avio los árboles, even in class at school during breaks. Mi nombre es Michael, soy profesor. Students passing by would stare and giggle. Mr. Turner, are you talking to yourself? One asked. No, he answered proudly. I'm practicing Spanish. A new challenge, memory games to prepare for the test. Michael tried something new, memory training. He downloaded a brain training app and played 10 minutes every night. At first, he was terrible. He couldn't remember the patterns. He clicked the wrong colored boxes. He messed up the sequences, but every night, he got a little better. His brain felt like it was stretching, slowly waking from a long sleep. The day before the test, down the night before the conversation test, it rained hard. Thunder shook the windows, wind pressed against the house. Michael sat at the kitchen table with his Spanish notebook open. His tea had gone colder. His heart wouldn't calm down. What if I forget everything? He whispered to himself. What if I freeze again? But then he looked at his notebook. At all the pages he had filled. At all the progress he had made. He remembered the first day he walked into class nervously, the pride he felt when he said "Me lamo Michael." Maria's comforting words, his sister's encouragement, his students laughing in the hallway. He took a slow breath. I've come too far to quit now. A quiet victory before going to sleep. He wrote in his notebook, tomorrow I will try, even if I make mistakes. Trying is how the brain stays young. He closed the notebook, turned off the lights, and lay down. The storm outside was loud, but inside Michael felt something peaceful, steady, and strong. A feeling he hadn't felt in a long time, confidence. The morning of the Spanish test arrived cold and bright. Portland was washed clean from the night's heavy rain, and sunlight reflected off the wet streets. Michael walked to the community center slowly, practicing phrases under his breath. Me llamo Michael, trabajo como profesor, en mi tiempo libre, yo camino y estudio. But no matter how much he practiced, he felt the same tight knot in his stomach. Entering the classroom, when he entered the room, the energy was different. Students sat quietly, flipping through their notes. Even the usually enthusiastic Tom looked serious. Maria stood near the whiteboard, smiling warmly at everyone. She said, "Breathe. This is not a test of perfection. This is a test of courage." Michael swallowed hard. One by one, students went. Maria called the first student, then the second, then the third. Some did great, some forgot words, some laughed nervously. But after each 2-minute conversation, Maria clapped and said the same thing, muy bien. You tried. That's what matters. It helped calm the room, but when she finally said, "Michael, you're next," his body froze. The conversation begins. Michael walked to the front. His legs felt heavy, his heart was racing, and Maria sat across from him with a gentle smile. "Listo, Michael?" she asked. "Ready, Michael?" He nodded, even though he wasn't sure. "Okay," she said. "Let's begin." She asked the first question, "Como te llamas?" What's your name? Michael inhaled deeply. Me llamo Michael, he answered. Good, simple, safe. The next question, de donde es? Where are you from? I soy de Portland, he replied. Another small success. Then she asked something longer. ¿Qué te gusta hacer en tu tiempo libre? What do you like to do in your free time? Michael felt his brain tense. The room felt warm. His mind began to go blank. Not again, please, not again. He squeezed his hands under the table to stay focused. Then, slowly, the words came. En mi tiempo libre, yo camino, estudio español, y leo libros. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fast, but it was his Spanish, his effort, his progress. Something unexpected. Maria nodded proudly, but then she asked a surprise question, one they never practiced in class. ¿Por qué quieres aprender español? Why do you want to learn Spanish? The room went silent. Even the students in the back lifted their heads. Michael blinked. Why was he learning Spanish? He could have said anything. He could have given a simple answer, but instead, something honest came out. He spoke slowly, carefully. Pork, quiero mantener mi cerebro joven. Y quiero sentirme vivo otra vez. Because? I want to keep my brain young and I want to feel alive again. The room stayed quiet. Then Maria smiled, not the usual teacher smile, but something warm and real. Excellent, she whispered. The applause. When the 2 minutes ended, Michael stood up, expecting only relief, but the entire class began applauding, not loudly, not dramatically, just a soft, sincere applause. Sarah smiled and whispered, "You did amazing." Tom gave him a thumbs up. Even the quiet college student, David, nodded in respect. Michael felt something powerful move through his chest, not pride and not relief, something deeper, belonging. For the first time in months, he didn't feel old. He didn't feel slow. He didn't feel behind. He felt capable. He felt improving. He felt young. A message from Mary after class. Maria stopped him at the door. "Michael," she said softly, "you showed more courage than anyone today. That is the real sign of a strong mind." He didn't know what to say. He just smiled. On the walk home, the air felt lighter, the city brighter, the world more alive. That night, he wrote in his notebook, "Today I didn't just speak Spanish. I proved to myself that I'm still growing. My brain is waking up, and so am I." After the Spanish conversation test, something inside Michael shifted. He walked through the city with a new sense of confidence. Even the rainy Portland mornings felt brighter. He had challenged his brain, and won. A new kind of energy. The changes were small at first. He woke up earlier. He smiled more. He felt less tired during the day. Even his students noticed. "Mr. Turner, you look happier lately," one of them said. Another added, "Did you get a girlfriend or something?" Michael laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. No, just learning new things. But secretly, he felt proud. He felt alive. A visit to the library one afternoon, after school, Michael stopped by the local library. It was quiet, warm, and smelled like old paper, a place he had always loved. Something on a display table caught his eye. Brain Health Month, try something new. The table was full of books. Build a Better Memory, The Science of Aging, New Skills After 50, The Power of Curiosity. He picked up a book titled Young Brain at Any Age. Inside, he read something that made him stop. The brain grows when it is surprised, challenged, and pushed beyond comfort. He whispered the words slowly: surprised, challenged, pushed. That was exactly what his Spanish class had done for him. A small experiment inspired, he decided to try a new challenge. He bought a 1,000-piece puzzle from a small toy shop near the library. The woman at the counter smiled. First time doing a big puzzle? He nodded. Something like that. At home, he dumped the puzzle pieces on his dining table. Hundreds of tiny shapes, all similar shades of blue. He almost gave up before starting, but he forced himself to focus. Try. The first 20 minutes were painful. He could barely find two matching pieces. His eyes hurt, his brain felt slow, but then, click. One piece fit, then another, then two more. A pattern began to appear. He wasn't fast, but he was consistent, and consistency, he realized, was a kind of strength. A surprise phone call just as he was finishing a small corner of the puzzle, his phone rang. It was Maria. Hola, Michael, she said warmly. He sat up straighter. Hola, Maria, ¿cómo estás? She laughed. Muy bien. I'm calling because next month we're starting a new program. Michael raised an eyebrow. A new program? Yes, she explained, a Spanish conversation group that meets every Saturday morning at a cafe downtown. We practice speaking for fun. No pressure. Michael hesitated. Saturday morning, talking to strangers. In Spanish, it sounded terrifying, but then he remembered something from his notebook. Doing something new keeps the brain young. He took a breath. I think, he said slowly, I'd like to join. Maria's voice brightened. Wonderful. I knew you would. A feeling of growth after the call, Michael returned to his puzzle. He stared at the pieces spread across the table. Just like learning a language, a puzzle was built piece by piece, sometimes frustrating, sometimes confusing, but always moving forward. He placed another puzzle piece in its place, then another. His heart felt lighter. The notebook entry before bed, he wrote in his notebooks, today, I said yes to something new. Not because I'm confident, but because I'm growing. He closed the notebook with a soft smile. In the quiet of his room, with the rain tapping the window gently, Michael realized something important. His brain wasn't just staying young. It was blooming. Saturday morning arrived sooner than Michael expected. He stood in front of the cafe downtown, Café Sol, a warm place filled with the smell of fresh coffee and the quiet buzz of people talking through the window. He could see a small group already gathered at a round table in the corner. They were laughing, talking, switching between English and Spanish. Michael's stomach tightened. What if I can't keep up? What if they speak too fast? What if I forget everything? But then he remembered his promise, I will keep my brain young. He pushed open the door. First impressions. A little bell rang as he entered. The cafe was cozy, yellow walls, wooden tables, soft jazz playing in the background. The barista smiled and said, good morning. Michael nodded nervously and walked toward the group. Maria saw him first. Oh, Michael. Bienvenido, she said with a bright smile. The whole group turned, some familiar faces from class, some new ones. There were Carlos, a native Spanish speaker from Mexico who volunteered to help learners, Elena, a college student studying abroad soon, Mark, a businessman who wanted to communicate with his Latino co-workers, and Angela, a cheerful middle-aged woman who simply loved languages. Come sit, Angela said, pulling out a chair for him. Michael sat down, heart pounding, trying to calm his breathing. The conversation begins. Maria clapped lightly. Okay, amigos. Today we speak only Spanish. Everyone groaned, but in a playful way. Carlos laughed. Don't worry, I speak slowly. Michael prayed he meant it. They began with simple introductions. Me llamo Angela, soy de California, trabajo en tecnología. Then it was Michael's turn. He took a breath. Me llamo Michael. Soy profesor de historia. Why, estoy aquí para practicar. Perfecto. Carlos said. Muy claro. Michael's shoulders relaxed. A moment of connection later, they discussed simple topics, food, hobbies, family. When Michael mentioned that he loved gardening, Angela's eyes lit up. "Te gustan las plantas?" she asked. "Sigh," he replied. "Tengo tomates, hierbas, pepinos." Carlos laughed. "Un jardinero? Muy bien." For the first time, Spanish didn't feel like a test. It felt like connection, real human connection. A small mistake, and a big lesson eventually. Someone asked Michael a question. "¿Qué haces después del trabajo?" "What do you do after work?" Michael wanted to say, "I walk in the park." But instead, he accidentally said "Yo camino en el perro." "I walk on the dog." The whole table burst into laughter, not in a mean way, but in a warm, friendly way. Michael covered his face. "Oh no. I meant in the park. En el parque." Carlos wiped tears from laughing. "Don't worry. Everyone has said something funny like that." Maria added, "If you never make mistakes, you never grow." Michael couldn't help laughing too. It was embarrassing, yes, but freeing. A real conversation. Toward the end of the meetup, something unusual happened. Michael and Carla spoke together for almost 15 minutes entirely in Spanish, about gardening, about teaching, about life in Portland. They even joked with each other when they finished. Carla smiled deeply. "Tu hablas más de lo que crees," he said. "You speak more than you think." Michael felt a warm rush of pride. A new understanding. After leaving the cafe, he walked slowly along the busy Saturday street. People shopped, dogs barked, children played, yet Michael felt like he was seeing everything with new eyes. Learning a language wasn't just about words. It was about confidence, a connection, courage, staying curious, letting the brain stretch and allowing yourself to be imperfect. He felt lighter than he had in years. The notebook entry at home. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Today I spoke with real people. I made mistakes. I laughed. I learned. My brain feels awake, not just younger, but brighter." He closed the notebook and smiled. Something had changed, something deep. He wasn't just learning Spanish anymore. He was learning himself again. The community center in Portland buzzed with quiet energy. People chatted near the coffee table, flipping through brochures about brain health, nutrition, and cognitive fitness. Michael stood near the registration desk, hands in his pockets, feeling a strange mix of confidence and nervousness. Today was the annual Brain Health Assessment, organized by Dr. Hayes and a team of neuroscientists from the local university. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't a medical exam. It was simply a way to measure progress, but to Michael, it felt bigger than that. He had been working for months, running in the rain, learning Spanish, challenging his mind, changing his diet, sleeping better, living differently. He had rebuilt not only his habits, but his entire identity. "Mr. Turner." A young assistant waved him forward with a cheerful smile. "Your assessment room is just down the hall." Michael followed her to a quiet room with soft lighting and a large window overlooking the trees. A long table sat in the center with a stack of papers, a computer, and a box filled with flashcards. Dr. Hayes entered a moment later, holding a tablet. "Ready, Michael?" she asked. He chuckled nervously. "As ready as I'll ever be." The test began. Sparkles 1. Word recall. Dr. Hayes read out 20 random words, slowly, one by one. River, apple, courage, train, whisper. Michael closed his eyes, letting the words fall softly into his mind. After 1 minute she said, "Okay, tell me as many as you remember." He took a deep breath and began speaking. The words flowed easily, much easier than he expected. Sparkles 2. Pattern recognition. A series of shapes flashed on the computer screen. Michael had to identify which patterns repeated, rotated, or changed direction. Months ago, this exercise would have confused him, but now, he felt sharp, focused, calm. Sparkles 3. Short story memory. A short audio clip played, a story about a woman losing her keys at a grocery store. After listening once, he had to retell it. His voice was steady, confident, almost amused. "I remember when I used to forget things like that all the time," he joked. Sparkles 4. Rapid calculation. Small math challenges appeared one after another. Nothing too hard, but quick, timed, and tricky. Michael surprised even himself. After nearly an hour, the assessment ended. He stood by the window while Dr. Hayes reviewed the results on her tablet. Rain tapped gently on the glass. Outside, Portland looked peaceful, like a watercolor painting. Dr. Hayes finally looked up. "Michael," she said softly, "I want you to hear this." She held up the tablet. "You have improved in every category: a memory, attention, Processing speed. Cognitive flexibility, every single one. Michael blinked, seriously. Very seriously, she smiled. You're functioning like someone 10 years younger. He felt a slow warmth fill his chest, not pride, not relief, something deeper, hope, real, powerful hope. Dr. Hayes stepped closer and placed a hand on his shoulder. You did this, she said. Not medicine. Not luck. You trained your brain. You changed your life. Michael swallowed, trying not to show how emotional he felt. Thank you, he whispered. No, she said gently. Thank yourself. That night, Michael walked home through the cool Portland air. Streetlights glowed on the wet pavement. He felt lighter, younger, almost reborn. The old fear, the fear that his mind was slipping away, was gone. In its place stood something strong and bright, the belief that the brain can grow at any age. But he didn't know something important yet, something waiting for him in part 10.2 weeks after the assessment. Michael stood at the front of his classroom in Portland, Oregon. The sun poured through the windows, lighting up the students' notebooks. Spring was arriving, the air smelled of rain and new beginnings, but today felt different because today, Michael wasn't the same man who had once frozen in front of his students, unable to remember a single simple word. He was stronger, sharper, more alive. He cleared his throat and began his lesson with a smile. Good morning, everyone. Before we start history, I want to tell you a quick story. Students looked at him with curiosity. Mr. Turner rarely began class this way. He continued, a few months ago, I realized something important. The brain, well, it doesn't get old the way we think. Not if we take care of it. He told them the truth, not every detail, but enough about forgetting words, about fear, about change, about the journey of learning Spanish, running in the rain, feeding his brain the right food, and challenging himself every day. The classroom was silent, even the usual talkers sat still, listening. I want you to remember, he said, that the brain keeps growing. At 15. At 50. Even at 90. You are never too old or too young to improve. A girl in the second row raised her hand. So, you basically trained your brain like an athlete. Michael laughed softly. Exactly. And you can too. The bell rang, but students didn't rush out. They gathered around him, asking questions about habits, memory, language learning, brain training. It was the first time he felt not just like a teacher, but like someone who could truly inspire. That evening, Michael walked to his favorite coffee shop, the one with wooden tables and soft jazz music. The place smelled of cinnamon and roasted beans. He sat by the window with a notebook. This time, he wasn't there because he was worried. He was there because he wanted to plan his future. He wrote 3 simple lines. Keep learning, keep moving, keep growing. Just then, the bell above the door rang, and someone stepped inside. It was his friend, Louis, the chess player who had helped him rediscover challenge and curiosity. You look different, Louis said, sliding into the seat across from him, peaceful. I feel different, Michael replied. They played a quiet game of chess for the first time. Michael didn't rush, didn't panic, didn't worry. He saw patterns clearly, remembered strategies easily, and enjoyed every moment. Louis smiled when the game ended. You've become good, he said. Michael leaned back, taking a slow breath. I've become me again. Later that night, at home, the rain came back, the soft Portland kind that whispered on the windows. Michael sat on his couch with a book in Spanish, a cup of herbal tea at his side. He read every word with focus and enjoyment. No fear. No forgetting. No panic. He smiled to himself. His journey had taught him one simple truth: the brain doesn't stay young by accident. It stays young by choice, and Michael had chosen well.